Yes. Hello, my friends. I just pressed the Let's Go Live button. It's a beautiful Friday, and so let's wait for these tubes to connect themselves all across the fruited plain of the interwebs before we go ahead and get started. We got some trial to wrap up the week with on day 8, and we got to make sure that the interwebs are working, lest we be rambling off into oblivion here, as sometimes happens. It looks like we're alive over on the YouTubes, checking in on the locals and the rumbles. Looks like we're ready to go, my friends. That's tremendous. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about Alvin Bragg. Trial, day 8. And we've been covering this thing for quite some time. Of course, the first week last week was all about jury selection. This week, we've had a lot of activity. We had opening arguments, and we had several days of our first witness, and really until today has been our only witness, which is this guy, David Pecker. And so we're going to start the day. Actually, most of the testimony today was from David Pecker, and we had some good synopsis from him. Remember, yesterday we learned a lot about all of the other people that had these types of deals. And it's not just Donald Trump. It's also people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was running for office. Also like Rahm Emanuel, who was running for office. And none of those people are sitting bogged down in a Bragg-infested courtroom during their elections. Of course, that's only Donald Trump who is. So we'll refresh our recollection on that. We also have some updates on who else testified today. So we're going to meet these two people who came into the courtroom today. Rhona Graff is the first woman that we're going to hear from as soon as we're done with Pecker. So Graff comes out, and you know, a lot of these people are there under subpoena. They're there because Bragg is dragging them there. They're not adversarial to Trump. They're just people who got caught up in the orbit, right? They're essentially victims, just like Trump is. So we've got him, Rhona Graff we'll hear about. Then we also have Gary Farro, who was Michael Cohen's banker. And Michael Cohen has not been called yet, but this is where we ended the day with this fella. So we'll read an article, learn more about him as well. Now, you may have also seen this. Today was Melania's birthday. Donald Trump came out and wished her a very happy birthday before he went into the court proceedings. Courtroom, again, is very cold, but he wished her a happy birthday. And so, happy birthday out there to Melania. Of course, hopefully they're celebrating now that trial is over on the week. Then we're going to turn our attention to the trial activities. And as per usual, we'll see what is cooking with our friend Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee. All of his links are in the description below. And we'll go through what he said. He was there all day today, and he was tweeting like a madman. And so we're grateful for his reporting. He's got Substack. He's got Patreon, and a bunch of other things. And so make sure you're supporting his work so that we can continue to get this great reporting. Then we had this breaking today. You remember this guy called Howard Stern, who has, I thought he was still in a COVID bunker or something, but apparently he's still doing interviews. So Joe Biden showed up on his show for whatever reason and had a conversation with him about a lot of different things, talking about weird photos that he got sent to him when he was a senator, a bunch of weird stuff, weird dude. Of course, perfect person to interview him is Howard Stern, another, as far as I can tell, degenerate who's been a degenerate for a long time. But all right. Now he is interviewing the president. Joe Biden comes out with the big news. Yes, we'll debate. So let's get a debate going. And I'm shocked about that. I don't think that that's ultimately going to happen because Joe Biden can't hardly talk. And so this will be a curious thing to see. Now, after the trial occurred, after the day was over, Trump came out and he said, okay, well, Joe Biden said, let's go ahead and debate. Happy to do that. So we'll see if that gets cooking anytime soon. I have a hard time believing that they do that. I think more likely we'll see that little fiction. We can't platform a liar. We can't go in and even honor Trump's lies with even a moment of debate. So we'll see. As you can see, my friends, we got two good segments cooking on the day, and we're excited that you are here. Hopefully your week was amazing and you accomplished everything you set your minds to. Before we jump into the trial show and all of the activity on the day, have you seen this story that is out there about this bird flu saga? Here's this story from Politico. Check this out. Bird flu, they just published this a couple days ago, says bird flu virus fragments have now been detected in retail milk in the U.S. They say it's still unclear whether the detected virus was active or not. FDA plans to release additional test results in the coming days. Published by Meredith this week says bird flu virus fragments have been detected in retail milk samples, according to 3 people familiar with the matter. FDA on Tuesday confirmed some of the samples collected have indicated the presence of bird flu, quote, particles under certain testing, but that pasteurization likely to inactivate the virus, which is good. Now, to date, we've seen nothing that would change our assessment that the commercial milk supply is safe. Good, because I had a bowl of oatmeal this morning, and we want to make sure it's safe. All right, so stories like this are a little bit, unnerving, no doubt about it. And so the question is, what do we do about it? Can we be prepared? We remember the last pandemic when we were not so prepared, and we don't want that to happen again. And so we need to have some safeguards. And of course, that means having life-saving medications on hand. Now, this could happen any day now, right? We saw COVID come out of nowhere. It's the election season. And so let me just pause, tell you a little bit about the wellness company, their contagion emergency kit. It's the only kit of its kind. This is a prescription contagion emergency kit. It comes from the Wellness Company, provides you with a carefully selected assortments of effective medications for other things like bird flu, COVID, respiratory illnesses. Inside, you'll see there's things like ivermectin, hydrochloroquine. We got Z-Paks, Tamiflu, budesonide. There's a nebulizer in there. So you can rest easy knowing that whatever pops up, you've got an emergency kit on hand and you've got a guidebook so you can stay safe. So all this research comes from people like Dr. Peter McCullough, the Wellness Company. And this is a kit that every American should have at least one of in their home. And it's very easy to go and order yours. Just go to www.twc.health/Robert. Use code Robert. You can save 10% off your order and you get free shipping. It is less expensive than a single doctor visit for most people. And so you can be prepared no matter what. Safeguard your health. www.twc.health/Robert or use code Robert at checkout. And these kits are only available in the USA. And it's good to be prepared, my friends. And thanks to our sponsors over at the Wellness Company for helping us get there. All right. Now, without any further ado, my friends, let's get into the meat and potatoes on the day because we got trial. Donald Trump appeared in court trial day 8, and it was Melania's birthday. He's supposed to be celebrating with his wife, and Judge Juan Merchan ordered him to be present at a trial so that he could watch this rigged prosecution continue forth. And so before we get into the trial activities, we're going to understand who testified today because we got 2 new witnesses who came afoot, Rhona Graff and Gary Farro, in addition to David Pecker. But David Pecker was on the stand. We're going to pick back up with him during cross-examination. And yesterday we learned a lot of things like he didn't want to engage with Stormy Daniels, which was really the only person who was subject to criminal involvement in this case. Remember, all of these charges are about Stormy. They're not about Karen McDougal. They're not about David Pecker. They're trying to allege that there was some conspiracy here so that they can shoehorn this case into a very obscure subsection E, I believe it was, type of crime to make it a felony based on a pretext of another federal crime and a conspiracy that has a shorter statute of limitations. It's all like dividing by 0. It's all very circular. But they bring this guy in, again, who's not even relevant to the charges, and he tells us very clearly, this is New York, okay? We have all sorts of NDAs, non-disclosure agreements that take place in New York because of all the celebrities that come through there and live there. And Pecker reminded us that he had done a similar, quote, catch and kill operation, even though that's not what they called it. The government called it that because they always like to say everything's a kill because it makes the jury say, wow, he's killing people. So David Pecker was buying stories. He did checkbook journalism. He told us all about this. And he says Arnold Schwarzenegger had like tons of stories being bought. We paid a lot of money for those when he was running for office. Same thing with Rahm Emanuel. And we also know that the Manhattan DA's office had their people going out and speaking on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein, trying to get him a reduced sentence, trying to beat up Harvey Weinstein victims. Ultimately, that case was so botched, he's now going to go free in New York. Okay, it's a mess. So they're obviously clearly singling out Donald Trump as he goes into court. Now, the two other witnesses, before we jump into the trial testimony, we need to know who these people are because it just happens quick. We need some background on this. Rhona Graff is the former Trump assistant who was a longstanding executive assistant to Trump and senior vice president of the Trump organization. Okay, so she's kind of inside on a lot of things. Worked at Trump Tower for nearly 30 years before Trump got elected as president and has been described as Trump's gatekeeper, right? Trump doesn't use email. Trump doesn't text, supposedly, and she handles it all. So following Trump's election to the White House, Graff continued to handle arrangements outside the official things. Now, Graff grew up with the daughter, Queens, master's in psychology. She heard of a job vacancy back in 1987 and applied for it. What a great country that was when you could just work your way up. And the president, senior vice president, she handled a large quantity of these items. She also appeared with Trump on The Apprentice and has been the judge on Miss Teen USA. Now, she's been nicknamed Trump's right hand. John Katzimantakis similarly said, if I really wanted to whisper something in his ear, I'd go to Rhona. Right now, in 2004, said everybody knows in order to get through to him, they got to go through me, is what she said. So they're always on their best behavior around me. Since Trump's assumption of the presidency, she reportedly communicated with Trump through his former White House assistant, Madeleine Westerhout, who we talked about in our slide deck when we were debriefing all of this, as somebody who might come in because she was very much the similar role, handling a lot of communications. Now, Graff's name came to the attention of congressional investigators of the Russian interference, which was all fake in 2016, following reports that she appeared to be referred to by name by a music publicist in an email to Trump's son. Wacko people. So she lives in New York. In 1993, she married someone, and that's her story. All right, so she's coming up soon. And we also have Gary Farro, who is Michael Cohen's banker. And these are the two witnesses we get in addition to David Pecker. So who is this guy? Who is Gary Farro, the banker testifying in the Trump trial? There he is. And the New York Times published this one today, in fact, telling us the third witness in the criminal trial of Trump is Gary Farro, a banker who's testifying on Friday about his work with Mr. Trump's former lawyer. Now, background on him before we jump to it. Mr. Farro spent 15 years First Republic Bank, where he was senior managing director. He posted that himself on LinkedIn. Now, that's a now defunct institution where the lawyer, Michael Cohen, established an account for Essential Consultants, allegedly to pay off Stormy. So Cohen set up the account, funded it from his home equity line of credit at First Republic, and he was previously said that he did so to ensure his wife would not know about the transaction. Right now, there's a lot of people saying that Michael Cohen maybe was playing both sides of this whole thing. You know, he goes to Trump, hey, there's this really juicy story, and he's trying to negotiate the other side of it, and he's trying to basically handle it on his own and then maybe go back to Trump and say, I handled this for you and I need you a big inflated payday, right? They give him a big fat bonus. They pay for the taxes on the transaction, evidently, or they were just legal services, right? We don't really know. Now, he has previously said he did so his wife didn't know about it. So he was even hiding this from his wife. And about 2 weeks before, he wired the payment to Keith Davidson, a lawyer for Miss Daniels. Now, after the hush money payment became public, Daniels and her lawyer at the time provided NBC News with an assistant to Mr. Farro confirming the transfer. Now, Cohen had used the Trump organization email address in the communications, but said at the time the company funds were not used. According to the NBC, the email from October 26 had the subject line First Republic Bank transfer and the funds have been deposited into your checking account. Trump says, no, I did not have relations with that woman. All right, so that's the background on who is coming up. We know David Pecker is going to be back on the stand for cross-examination, courtesy of Emil. And my understanding is his last name is not Bove, B-O-V-E, it's Bove. So apologies to Mr. Bove. But Trump was out before the trial started, and he said, you know, it's Melania's birthday on top of everything, and I should be there with my wife rather than testifying or sitting here through testimony in this rigged trial. Here's the president.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. I want to start by wishing my wife, Melania, a very happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Melania.
I wish to be with her, but I'm at a courthouse for a rig trial. It's a rig trial. Terrible. But we're doing very well in this rig trial. Everybody knows it. Yesterday was a big day. But I do have to begin by wishing Melania happy birthday. She's in Florida. I'll be going there this evening after this case finishes up.
Love you, baby.
Unconstitutional case. When it finishes up. We have a report that was just put out by House Judiciary on the District Attorney's Office. This was done by Congress. And so I guess it just came out a little while ago, a few moments ago. I haven't seen it yet, haven't read it, but it should be interesting. I think yesterday went very well in this courthouse. It should be over. The case is over. You heard what was said, and the case should be over. But you'll have to make that determination. I think we have a judge that will never allow this case to be over in a positive way. He's highly conflicted, the most highly conflicted judge I've ever seen. And yesterday, I think in the Supreme Court having to do with immunity, I heard the argument was brilliant. I listened to it last night. I thought it was really great. I thought the judge's questions were great.
They were good.
All presidents have to have immunity. It has nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing. All presidents have to have immunity. You don't have a president, certainly not a president that the founders wanted. So we have another day of court in a freezing courthouse. It's very cold in there, on purpose, I believe.
Yes.
They don't seem to be able to get the temperature up. It shouldn't be that complicated, but we have a freezing courthouse, and that's fine. That's just fine. Let them keep handing it out. This is a rigged trial. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're not going to jail, Mr. Jones. You think we're keeping it cold to make you uncomfortable?
We're just ready for Melania's birthday.
Did you sleep with Pecker Google?
These reporters are the worst. Well, one question was good. Do you think that they're keeping this courtroom cold on purpose? And I think the answer is yes. They say it's an old courthouse. And so if we turn the temperature up a degree or two, it's going to cause some additional increase. You know, it's not going to go from 60 to 65 or to 70. It's going to go from 65 to 85 is what they're saying. Yeah, right. I think it's very curious that it's happening. So anyways, this is, you can see Emile Beauvais, who is right back here. He's got a full briefcase ready to go. To his left is Susan Nicholas. And we saw Todd Blanche was to the president's side when they were approaching and talking to the media. So that's the scene. We are now ready to go. We know who is there. We know what the scene looks like. We know how the president's feeling. And so let's get right into it because we got activity ahead. Bragg's witnesses crumble. It is day 8 of the trial, and we're going to hear from new people. In addition to Mr. Pecker, we also have these individuals, Rhona Graff, Trump's former assistant, and Gary Farro, Michael Cohen's banker, who are going to be testifying very briefly near the end of the day in the afternoon. But as per usual, we're going over to Inner City Press. You know who he is, Matthew Russell Lee, reporting on this. They're just firing out on the keyboard all day long. I don't know how he does it, but he does it, and we're grateful for it. So please support him at Inner City Press. All of his links are in the description below. And as we're done here, we're going to see what Trump said in the aftermath of this day worth of trial. And he's saying, okay, I guess if Joe wants to debate me, we can do it. So let's go ahead and do it. Biden said on Howard Stern's show that it's time to go. Trump says, I'm ready, Joe. So as usual, we go to Inner City Press reporting. You know where to follow him. We're back. It is day 8 and we're counting the jury days here. And Inner City, Matthew Russell Lee reporting sets the scene for us. It's Friday. Trump's in the courtroom, looking sharp as we saw. Blue tie, blue suit this time. Waiting for a court to get in session. Door flops open. Pfft. All rise. Judge walks in. Please be seated. Clerk announces, this is the time set for People versus Donald Trump, indictment number, whatever. Judge starts the proceedings. All right, first things first, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to see everybody here. Happy Friday. He says, next week's hearing on contempt and the order to show cause based on Trump's statements about Cohen and other witnesses. He says, we're changing the time to Thursday at 9:30. Now, how about the text messages from Dylan Howard, who also worked at AMI under David Pecker? Says, well, we've proposed redaction, says the government. And he says, okay, great. Judge says, okay, first, Mr. Beauvais, Trump's defense team. First, he said we're all pretty much on the same page. And then suddenly we have this concern about prejudice in this case. And I don't know when that is going to be. But at some point we may get there. And the judge tells everybody, I'm relying on people versus settles to handle this issue. So you guys now know that. Trump's defense says, okay, thanks, Judge. We'll confer with the people on this. We'll talk about the redactions and we'll see what we can settle without getting into it. Government prosecutor says, Your Honor, is the court going to instruct jurors about what we viewed as yesterday's improper impeachment by omission? In other words, Trump's defense was asking questions of Mr. Pecker, and the questions didn't give full context. And so it was leaving stuff out that they thought was important. And if you don't tell them about the stuff that's left out of the context, then the juror's going to get the wrong idea. Trump's defense says, Your Honor, well, I think I'll address it. I intend to begin with Mr. Pecker by apologizing for that and correcting the record on that. Government says, well, we want an instruction. He says, the court's been pretty reasonable here, but we want the jurors to be instructed about the redactions. And I want them to know whether intentional or unintentional that Mr. Beauvais improperly conflated the federal and the state prosecutors. And when it's unclear, I'll object about that, right? Because there were several different investigations. And I think the testimony they're referring to yesterday was Mr. Beauvais was saying to David Pecker, you met a lot with prosecutors, right? And he's like, yeah. He's like, how many times this year did you meet with them? He's like, I don't know, 3. And you met with the feds too, right? Yeah. And how many times was that? And he's, I don't know, 4. And he says, okay, so you met with the government all these different times. And then he's talking about 2 different things, but then he talks about something else. And that was kind of the Fed case, but he's not clear if that's the Fed case. And so maybe he should be clear about it. Okay. Oh, that's the Fed case. That's not happening here, right? She says, I'll be clear. I'll apologize. I'll say I was a little confusing yesterday. Sorry. I'll be a little bit more clear about this. We'll distinguish and disambiguate the two. Okay. So he says, government says, well, when it's unclear, I'll object. And the judge says, okay, that's fine. Get it all sorted out. Judge says, okay, anything else? All right, fine. All right, let's go. All right, bring in David Pecker. Pecker comes in. Hey, Mr. Pecker, reminder, you're under oath. Take this. Okay. I'll understand, Your Honor. He takes the stand. Bring in the jurors. All rise. Jurors are seated. Please be seated. Judge Mercan says, good morning, jurors. Nice to have you back. Happy Friday. Says, yesterday, you heard testimony about the prosecution speaking with the witness before testimony. And that's permitted by law, okay? So they're allowed to talk to the prosecutors, witnesses, that's fine. They're allowed to, brainwash them into saying whatever the government likes. So that's just fine. Jurors, they're allowed to do that. If they want to meet with them 100 times, they can do it. Well, thanks, Judge. Mr. Beauvais, he says. Trump's attorney's back up. This is cross-examination now. Remember, this is the government's witness. And Emil is now up for cross-examination. He says, Mr. Pecker, yesterday we spoke about a meeting with prosecutors. You recall that? Yeah. We talked about Hope Hicks. Yeah. But that was about federal prosecutors. Right? Yeah. And if I'm unclear, I'm sure Mr. Steinglass will raise that because this is all conflated because this case is insane. So we'll clear this up. But you may too. You may clear this up. Does that make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, so now I want to move on. Now let's talk about Hope Hicks, he says. Now I asked you yesterday if she was in a meeting with you and Trump and others. And we have this defense exhibit called A104. You recognize this? Yeah. Now this is from your federal grand jury testimony. Is that right? It is a transcript, probably, from his testimony. Is this you? Yes. Yeah. And you were asked to tell the grand jury what occurred at the meeting. Is that right? He says, well, could I see the answer? Let me see. He reads pages 5 through 9. Defense says, and before the August 2015 meeting, the National Enquirer, which was owned by Pecker's company, they were already running negative articles about Bill and Hillary Clinton. Is that right? He says, yeah. So before you met Trump, okay, the first meetings in August 2015, you were already slamming Hillary. Is that true? Yeah. So it was mutually beneficial then. Objection, sustained. Defense says, let's back up. Mr. Pecker, isn't it true that you ran stories against Ben Carson, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, and you did that without much new content? Is that right? He says, well, I'd have to look at them. So the National Enquirer would basically just repackage information that's already out there. It's efficient to do it that way. Is that right? Yeah. And because it was cost efficient, you would have run those articles whether or not you discussed it with President Trump. Is that right? Correct. Because they're just good articles, right? Here are some of them. Like, this is a great headline. Gosh, I mean, if I could type that into my YouTube channels, I'll probably get a ton of views, but, you know, it's kind of a little problematic title because I don't think it's true. But brain butcherer Ben Carson in cancer cure storm. Right, they're good titles. Like, they're very clickable titles. It's the National Enquirer. That's what they do. That's why people buy them. Enquirer hailed for Ben the Butcher scoops. Bungling search in Ben Carson left a sponge in a brain. Ah! They're good titles. You know, they're very clickable titles. And is this girl, she have a sponge in her brain? Is that why her face is like that? I don't know. It's very clickable titles. You get it. You know what this is called? Clickbait. You know what the entire internet is filled with? This, all of it. Okay, every stinking magazine that exists is filled with this stuff. So don't say that, you know, because this one magazine was doing this on behalf of a separate interest is some sort of criminal conspiracy. Are you nuts? Go to any lefty blog. They have insane headlines and titles about Trump and all of the other people in his orbit and anybody who challenges them, right? So these are just clickbait titles, but they're going to say that this, right, these are clickable titles. He's not writing these titles because Trump said, go write these titles like it's some vast conspiracy. Yeah, you would have published those whether Trump was here or not, wouldn't you? Yeah. Now, this malpractice allegation against Dr. Carson that looks like this, you know, the photo of the top of the child, is that actually a recycled photo? He says, yeah. Oh, so maybe she doesn't even have a sponge in her brain after all. Oh, that's great. We all got duped. Misinformation. We should all censor ourselves because we're so scared. Pecker says, yeah, it's just a recycled photo, whatever. And the Carson West Point scholarship cycle story, is that also recycled? He says, yeah, also too. How about this one? Same with the Marco Rubio stories. Family man Marco Rubio's love child stunner. Senator Marco Rubio's cocaine addiction. Shady lady who could ruin Marco. You know, it's like, come on. Okay, everybody knows what they're buying here. We don't need Nina Jankowicz to come out here and correct the record on all this. Okay, we know what we're getting. It's the National Enquirer. We got it. Trump's lawyer, Emil Beauvais, says, Mr. Pecker, you talked about National Enquirer sources, and you sort of had a network of sources for sensitive details. Is that right? Yeah. But these recycled stories, that's a different business model, isn't it? Correct. And you wanted the meeting that you had to be quiet, right? Yes. But the meeting became public. And in the story, the people introduced yesterday, we saw that, right? And he says, yeah, we did. The National Enquirer, here's the story. I think this is from Wall Street Journal or maybe the Post. Says National Enquirer shielded Donald Trump from Playboy model's affair allegation. And they published this November 4th, 2016. Which is, of course, right in the middle of election season. And so that story breaks. Trump's lawyer, Emil Beauvais, says, and you had a source agreement with Dino Sejudic, and he was the doorman who evidently had some story that Trump impregnated some maid or something like that. Yeah, right? He says, yeah. And this is a standard AMI document. Is that correct? With your source agreement, you just use this all the time. You have a template for this probably in your DocuSign. Yeah, it is. And you compared the doorman story of some Trump love child to the death of Elvis Presley, and you sold the Elvis Presley, you sold $6.5 million. And said Mr. Sejudan actually threatened to go somewhere else, and so that's why you paid him, right? Right. And you amended the agreement in the government's exhibit. We saw that, right? 155. You actually amended the agreement. He says, yeah, with Sejudan. Okay, great. So the doorman, thank you. Now, I want to turn over to McDougal and on to the 2016 negotiations with her. Now, she came to you. Apparently, part of the story was McDougal. She wanted to restart her career. Is that what she said to you? Yeah. And what do you remember about the call with McDougal and her people? Says, well, I was in Chatham, New Jersey at the time, and Mr. Trump's call was transferred there. And Mr. Trump said, I spoke to Michael Cohen, and I want to talk to you about Karen McDougal. He says, Trump said, is it true there's a Mexican group that has $8 million for this story? And what do you remember about the call, Mr. Pecker? He says, well, I was in Chatham. Now, I told him that I doubted that. I said, I don't think there's an $8 million bounty from the Mexicans on this story, even if they do hate the idea of your wall. But he should take the story off the market. Let's just get it. Just take it off the market. He said he talked to Michael and they'd get back to me. Now, did you tell him that she didn't really want her story published? Pecker, after a long pause, says, I did. Yeah. So she didn't actually want it published. She just wanted to restart her career. Did you tell that to the president? I did. And didn't Chatham get sued? Pecker says, yeah. And didn't you discuss Michael Cohen getting a job? You discussed it with Chatham Assets, right? Some other entity. Yeah. And you were also talking with Michael Cohen about Cohen going to work for Mark Cuban. Be a great fit. Those two would be great together. Bove says, you also discussed with Michael Cohen about getting paparazzi to take photos of Cohen leaving a meeting with Mark Cuban to put pressure on Trump. Is that true? Well, Michael Cohen never said that to me specifically, but that's what the effect of the photos would have been, isn't it? He says, yeah. So Cohen's now trying to go take out Trump. He's like, hey, guess what? Mark Cuban is courting me, Trump. So you better give me something else or something else. And so Cohen's now scheming against him. What if I just have one of your people take photos of me out of Cuban's office and let's see what that looks like? Put it in your magazine. Bove says thanks. Now let's turn to the agreement with Miss Karen McDougal. Now she wasn't focused on the cash, right? AMI ran 65 stories in McDougal's name. Is that true? Yeah. And this is the point we made yesterday when we were going through this. Okay, having McDougal with her double McDougals on the cover of National Enquirer, it's going to sell a lot of magazines. So they had 65 stories there, and people are, magazines are flying off the shelves. So you ran a lot of those. In other words, there was an alternative justification for paying her $150,000 because her likeness and celebrity as Playmate of the Year, right, is going to stand out. So they did that. Now, yes, we did. 65 stories. Now, you believe the agreement had a legitimate business purpose? Yeah, I did. And you called this agreement bulletproof. Is that what you said, Mr. Pecker? He says, yes, I did. And you said McDougal has Keith Davidson as her lawyer while also being a source for Mr. Howard. Was that normal, to use attorneys as sources about these clients? Now, he says this was unique, a little different here. Now, Mr. Davidson, who is McDougal's lawyer, did he also know Michael Cohen? So I found out afterwards that they did know each other. Wow. So Cohen, right? What if Cohen's bringing these women over here? So Cohen's lawyer knew McDougal's lawyer. McDougal comes over and has a claim. Cohen facilitates it. He gets paid. Cohen brings another woman with a claim. Oh, weird. All these women keep coming out of the woodwork. And they all have claims against Trump. And so how about I rectify the whole thing? These women get paid. Cohen gets paid. And the whole thing comes out of Trump's pocket. So you called this agreement bulletproof, and you said Karen McDougal has Keith Davidson as her lawyer, while also being the source for Howard, right? Was that normal? To have the lawyers be the sources? No, that was unique. And McDougal's lawyer, Davidson, also knew Michael Cohen? Yeah, I found out afterwards they knew each other. Now, you testified to the grand jury with the DA that Mr. Davidson, McDougal's lawyer, was one of your two major sources, right? He says, yeah, there were two major sources for Dylan Howard, who was another AMI executive. And I think the AMI lawyer, media executive, he was another executive, I think in charge of content. Dylan Howard, executive source of content. So he says, they weren't my sources. They were Dylan Howard's sources. Okay. And so you don't know what Michael Cohen and Davidson were doing on the side, do you? So you don't know what Cohen and McDougal's lawyer were doing on the side. And McDougal's lawyer was the one who brought the McDougal case. You don't know what they were doing outside of the conversation here, do you? No, I don't. Huh. Very curious. Now, on Stormy Daniels, you said the first time you learned of this story was in 2016. And you told Mr. Howard you wanted no involvement. Howard's the content guy at AMI, right? So these guys are on the same side of the aisle. Pecker, Howard work together. Stormy comes. Oh, no, I don't want anything to do with her. You told her you wanted no involvement, right? Now, wasn't this interesting? Keith Davidson was in the middle once again. The lawyer for McDougal. And he was your source, wasn't he? So Davidson then says, oh, gosh, right? He's getting paid facilitating these deals, clearly. Like the lawyers are getting paid. They're not working for free. So whatever the settlement was off 150 grand for McDougal, he's got his cut. Might be 30%, might be 50 grand on that. So that's a nice payday. I don't know what the deal was, but, or maybe something in perpetuity, right? From her residuals, or I don't know what he's doing. But he is funneling the McDougal story over to AMI, and he's this, I guess that's the same starting nexus point for the Stormy case. Keith Davidson was in the middle once again. He was your source, wasn't he? Yeah. And you told Dylan Howard, who's content guy, not to deal with Stormy Daniels. So what he did with Keith Davidson was outside the scope of his employment. Is that right? Objection sustained. Gosh, that's ridiculous. Like what? Where was that going? So what did Keith Davidson do with Stormy Daniels outside the scope of their employment over there? You know what I'm saying? So what he did with Keith Davidson and the Stormy Daniels saga. Okay, so sustained. We don't know where that's going. Now, that meeting in January 2017, Mr. Pecker, President Trump was at his desk and they were discussing the Fort Lauderdale shooting. You talked about this, remember? Yeah. And you said you saw Mike Pompeo and Sean Spicer and you saw James Comey in there. You also saw the FBI director. Is that right? And you said there was a joke, about you knowing more than anyone in the room, which is a hilarious joke. Okay. So Trump brought this dude in, Pompeo, Spicer, Comey, FBI director there. Hey, morons, this guy from the National Enquirer knows way more than you do. Come on in here, David Pecker. They're all like, and they didn't get the joke. And you know that after that meeting, there were some issues. Weren't there some issues between President Trump and James Comey? Prosecutor, objection, sustained. And you said there was a joke about you, right? And that was sustained. Now, you also said, Mr. Pecker, at the January 6, 2017 meeting that President Trump thanked you. He said he thanked you for handling the Karen situation and the doorman situation. When you said that, were you correct that he thanked you for handling Karen? He said, what do you mean? Was I correct? Well, here's from your meeting with your federal prosecutors. And I'm looking at these notes, Mr. Pecker, and these notes say that Trump then asked Pecker, and he cuts him off. Pecker just interrupts him. Hey, this is the FBI's interview, okay? This is their notes, so they could be wrong. I know what I testified to yesterday. I know what I remember. He's getting mad at him. Emil says, hey, I'm not trying to put you on the spot here. We don't need to get defensive about this. But I just want to get clear that your testimony is inconsistent with the FBI notes, right? Like, I'm not mad at you, sir. Like, thank you for your testimony. We're happy with you. So we know what you said, but the FBI didn't capture it. So the FBI is the bad guy. It's not you, so don't get mad. He says, okay, yes. Okay, got it. He says, I have a few more topics, but we could probably take our break now, Judge, if you'd like. Judge says, fine, 15 minutes. Jury leaves. Judge says, how much longer do we have here, Emil? He says, well, I have less than an hour left. He says, fine, be back here in 15. We fast forward and we're back. Emil Beauvais is back up. Pecker's back on the stand. Jury has now been seated. Says, Mr. Pecker, in early 2018, FBI agents, they came to your home. Is that true? Yeah. They gave me a search warrant. They took my phone. 3 ugly agents showed up. And after that, eventually AMI entered into a non-prosecution agreement with the government, didn't they? So I guess they did. I probably wasn't there anymore. It says, and there was a proposed transaction, wasn't there, between the Hudson News Group? Yeah, I remember that. Hudson News Group was going to acquire the National Enquirer and the 2 other tabloids. And when they were trying to finalize that deal, you had to clear up the investigation. Is that right? So you had to kind of close this stuff out. Is that true? Yeah. Now, yesterday, Mr. Pecker, you said that AMI admitted to a campaign finance violation. But there's no violation in this agreement. Is that correct? So he pulls up this agreement here. It says, hey, dear Mr. Stillman and from American Media, based on the cooperation, we were not going to criminally prosecute AMI for any crimes related to its participation in aggregating more expenses, $25,000 more, whatever, right? There's the deal. He says, well, yeah, there was no violation here. Is that right? In other words, the non-prosecution agreement was kept secret for a time, wasn't it, to allow AMI to talk to its financial institutions. Is that right? He says, well, I'm a little bit confused, says Pecker. Okay, he says, well, let's break this down. This statement of facts that is here right now, you approved this, didn't you? Yes. And do you remember that AMI's lawyer said that paragraph 3 was inaccurate? Do you remember that? He says, no, I don't. Okay, well, I want to show the parties, the court, and Mr. Pecker the notes. And this was not passed on, was it? That it was inaccurate? Objection. I don't even know what for. Sustained. Not relevant to where they're going. I don't know if this was already precluded at some point, but we're trying to piece together what's happening. He says, now you claim Mr. Michael Cohen told you that Trump has Jeff Sessions in his pocket, but you were still concerned, right? Yeah, I was. Is that because President Trump did not have Jeff Sessions in his pocket? Correct? Objection. Sustained. So the factual statements AMI says were problematic. Let's continue, see if we can fill in the gaps. Trump's lawyer Beauvais says, now AMI ultimately, right, there was a non-prosecution agreement, so you were not being criminally prosecuted, right? Right. But AMI entered into a conciliation agreement with the FEC, right, which is a civil agreement to rectify some misconduct. Pecker says, well, I was no longer with AMI by then. But you were a consultant to them, weren't you? Yeah. And what did that entail? Well, I had to be available to the new CEO. And you suggested to the FEC that the Washington Post had suppressed information about Paula Jones in the 1996 election, didn't you? Objection. Sustained. Relevance. Now, you found that the boxes in Florida were worthless. And you found that there's no secret trove of documents about Trump at the National Enquirer. Is that what you found? He says, right. Yeah, the boxes were worthless. We had nothing in those boxes. Beauvais says nothing further. And we're done. Now, government's up with redirect. Judge says, okay, redirect, Mr. Government. Government prosecutor's back up. Hey, you testified, Mr. Pecker, that prior to signing the contract with Miss McDougal, that you spoke with counsel about it, right? Before you signed your agreement with McDougal. I did. But you never told outside counsel about your meeting at Trump Tower, did you? No, I didn't. Was it your purpose in entering the contract with McDougal to kill her story, to influence the election? Yes. And did you tell counsel that Michael Cohen had said he would reimburse you? I did not. And how much time did outside counsel bill AMI for reviewing the Karen McDougal contract? He says half an hour. And while you initially denied the violation, you did eventually settle with the FEC, didn't you? Yes. So did you and AMI admit that you violated campaign finance laws? I object. Asked and answered. Says overruled. You want to approach? They go up to the bench. They come back. They're up there for a while. Government comes back. Prosecutor says, sorry, Mr. Pecker. Even I don't remember what the question was. Let's pick up here. Now, you testified that you formulated a plan to sell Miss McDougal's life rights to Cohen. But did you then speak with AMI's general counsel? Yes. Then I said the deal is off. And your agreement with McDougal was amended, wasn't it? He says, yes, it was. Amendment to name and rights license. McDougal agrees that she shall not grant the same or similar rights to any other party. There it is. Now, Mr. Pecker, government says, were you aware of the activities Michael Cohen was engaged in for the Trump campaign? He says, yes. Did Michael Cohen use his press contacts on behalf of the Trump campaign? He says, yes, he did. Were there any other instances in which a presidential candidate's fixer coordinated with you on an NDA? No. On Tiger Woods, you suppressed stuff to get an interview, right? Here with Tiger Woods, did you support Tiger Woods? Okay, here it says, I get it. On Tiger Woods, you suppressed to get an interview. In this case, did you suppress to influence an election? He says, yes, I did. Was it important for you to suppress stories about Arnold Schwarzenegger because he was big in Flex magazine? So he was important to the bodybuilding industry and the supplements industry as a whole. And what was your understanding of the part of the agreement that involved money? Pecker says, well, it was my understanding that, like with Mr. Schwarzenegger years before, I would be on the lookout for stories for sale. And here, I'd tell Michael Cohen. And how would you describe the overlap between your tabloid readership and Trump's base? It says our research found that the audience of celebrity magazines love to read positive stories about Trump, also negative stories about opponents. And would a story about a former Playboy model having a year-long relation with the presidential candidate who was married, would that have sold magazines? He says, yeah. It would have been National Enquirer gold, right? He says, Your Honor, it's about 1 p.m. Should we break here? He says, yeah, we'll break here. They go to lunch, and we're back. Now, before the jury is back, they're seated at the tables. Trump whispering with Beauvais, turns around, whispers to Todd Blanche. Jury comes in, we all rise, and we're seated. Government's back with Mr. Pecker. He says, hey, earlier, Mr. Beauvais, and sorry about that pronunciation earlier. They're getting it right, too. Showed you this article. You remember it? November 4th, 2016. Now, you were aware of it at the time, right? That was the McDougal story that we just looked at. Yeah, I was. And this article uses the term catch and kill. So it's unlikely that you heard it from prosecutors, right? Yeah, I saw it first in the press, says Pecker. So he corrects that from yesterday. Yesterday, he says the prosecutors told him. And what did you tell Dylan Howard, the content chief, about Miss Daniels' Stormy? I said no dealings with the porn star. No way. But you told Michael Cohen about it, and so that the campaign would squash it? Yes. So remember, Cohen knew McDougal's lawyer, and so Cohen could just be sitting there playing dumb. He's like, oh, you're kidding. Another woman popped up. Thanks for telling me, Pecker. And then Pecker calls him. He's like, I'll take care of it. Obviously, he doesn't want the story to originate with him, so he gives it to his friend who funnels it up the chain so that the campaign would squash it, right? Yes. And later, Dylan Howard asked you to reach out to Stormy Daniels. Is that true? Yeah, we called Cohen on Signal, and Dylan told Michaels, you didn't wire the money. And so Cohen suggested that we buy the story. Now, Mr. Bove also showed you a single line from the FBI notes. Is that right? That Mr. Trump did not express any gratitude towards you. Is that true? He says, yeah, the agent got it wrong. I was thanked. And then the notes on the second meeting, they reflect that you were also thanked for dealing with Karen and the doorman. Is that right? Yeah. And did you give these answers and read something? And Judge Kaplan didn't allow this in the Carroll trial, he's pointing out. Now, you also have, Mr. Pecker, you have an SDNY cooperation agreement, right? You have an agreement with the government to not be prosecuted, right? Yes. Did they ever tell you to say anything but the truth? No. Did any ADA ever tell you to not be truthful? No. Thank you. No further questions. That's the end of that one. Now, Trump's lawyer is back up with a recross. Says, all right, Mr. Bove is now questioning Mr. Pecker. He says, all right, look, Mr. Pecker, you know a private attorney can hold fundraisers for candidates without being part of the campaign, right? Yes. And Karen McDougal was a legitimate celebrity at the time. Pecker's silent for a while. He says, no, she wasn't. Well, she was on the cover. He says, yeah, 1999. But ABC was offering her a spot on Dancing with the Stars, weren't they? Yeah, in exchange for her story, they were, yeah. So in 2021, right, okay, so she was going to be on TV, right? She was somebody famous enough to be on TV. Yeah, in 2021, you also told the FEC, you told them that you did nothing wrong. Didn't you tell them that? Yes. I want to show you Defense Exhibit A132. Objection, exhibit does not come in, because why would it? Thanks, Judge Mercan. Bove says nothing further. That's the end of David Pecker. Done with him. Next witness, says the judge. Government prosecutor stands up. Your Honor, the people call Rhona Graff. Rhona Graff comes back in. She's sworn in. Miss Graff, do you promise to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but God? Yes, I do. Okay, please be seated. Government prosecutor says, Miss Graff, how many years did you work for the Trump organization? She says, oh gosh, 34 years. From the 90s until 2021, I worked for Mr. Trump, 26th floor. And are you here pursuant to a subpoena? Says the government. She says, yes, I am. And do you have lawyers here? She says, yes. Brittany's over here. Brittany, sorry, I can't remember her last name. Brittany's like, what the heck? This is unbelievable. Sorry, Brittany. Prosecutor says, well, who is paying for your lawyers here today? The Trump organization is. Says, well, Ms. Graff, we are going to introduce the exhibits on the thumb drive, and we're going to have some redactions. Now, on this thumb drive, do these exhibits, do they include the contacts of Karen McDougal, or maybe contracts of McDougal and Stormy? Maybe contacts. Yes, and what about Madeleine Westerhout? Are her contacts on there? Says yes. She was Mr. Trump's White House assistant. And what is this contact on the name, on the screen? Right, so they're going through like a Rolodex directory. On the screen, it says full name, Stormy, last name, Stormy. Redaction, 4 digits for the phone number. So her number is in a list somewhere. Did you see Stormy at Trump Tower before 2015? Yes. And did you know she was an adult film actress? Yes. And does this show that Mr. Trump was working in Trump Tower on January 17th and 18th, 2017, some calendar or whatever? Yes. And does this show him flying to D.C. on January 19th, 2017? Yes. Nothing further. Okay, so they say Stormy's there, probably hanging with Cohen, Michael Cohen, going in and out, doing whatever. And Trump's flying around. Trump was there January 17th. That's it. That's all testimony from her. Susan Nicholas, Trump's defense attorney, is up. Ms. Graff, did you like President Trump? She said, well, he was fair. Trump's seated there like, meh. But it was stimulating work, she says. Did you only speak about business with Mr. Trump, the president? She says 99%. But he would ask about my family. Very thoughtful of him. Always ask about it. Did he invite you to the inauguration? Yes. Now, you mentioned Stormy Daniels. Did President Trump see people for the Apprentice show at Trump Tower? Yes. And the Apprentice was popular, wasn't it? Objection. She's not qualified. Sustained. Now, President Trump would ask you about colorful people for Celebrity Apprentice. Is that right? She says that was smart. What about controversial people? Objection. Sustained. Can we approach? They come back. You heard him having discussions with possible guests. Isn't that true? She says, yeah, sometimes I would. And did you ever hear President Trump say Stormy Daniels could be an interesting guest? Did you ever hear that? Says, I do recall that. It was part of the office chatter. Oh, now Stormy's mad. She didn't make the show. Now, when she came to Trump Tower, she was there to be cast for the show. Is that right? I assumed that, yeah. Susan Nicholas says, how about this FedEx label? It was to mail checks down to the White House. Do you remember that? Says, I was not involved in that. And here, he sent an article to Alan Weisselberg. Is that normal? Some other document. Yeah, that is normal. Susan says to Graff, Miss Graff, you don't want to be here, do you, today? Says that is correct. And no one from the Trump organization has told you how to testify. Is that right? Objection. Sustained, even though the government basically said the same thing. Nicholas says nothing further, right? So same thing. Wild. So different standards for objections always, of course. Sidebar happens. We're done with Miss Graff, I believe, and we're back. So they take their afternoon recess, 15 minutes, we come back in. Government, you're up. Your witness. Who's next? Guy's name is Gary Farro. People call Gary Farro. He comes up. I do. Where do you work? Farro says, Flagstar Bank. And are you here voluntarily? He says, I mean, I got a subpoena after, and I started at First Union and then Wachovia. And then I went to the First Republic in 2008 after Wells Fargo. And when you were at First Republic, did you receive training, Mr. Farro? Says yes. And do banks collect info before opening an account? Yes. And are some industries not banked? He says, yeah. We don't do business with gambling, adult entertainment, or check cashers. And First Republic was basically high net worth individuals only, says Mr. Farro. Thank you. Now, do you know Michael Cohen? He says, yeah, he was assigned to me in 2015. And why were you chosen for this? He says, I don't know. I was told because I was good at dealing with people who could be difficult, like Cohen was. And who did he tell you he worked for when he came in there? Former President Donald Trump. And what was Cohen's profession? He says he's a lawyer, or was, not sure. And how many accounts did Michael Cohen have before you took on his account? 4 or 5, I'd say. And Mr. Farro, I want you to read this email. Tell me what is inside. He says, oh, this email I recall. It's from my assistant. Her name is Lizzie Rappaport. It says to call Michael Cohen regarding an important matter. And so I did call him as an email. Call Michael Cohen. So I called him. What's up, Michael? He says he wanted to open a new LLC account immediately with no address on the checks. What was the LLC? He said it was Resolution Consultants, LLC. Michael Cohen is the sole member. He says it was established in Delaware, and so he just got it taken care of. And how about this email? He says paperwork was to set up the Resolution Consultants account, the MAICS code, including HR and marketing. And so what does this ask, Mr. Farro? This asks, is the entity engaged in political fundraising, right? You set up a new bank account. You've ever done this for your LLC. They ask you questions. You do this. What kind of business? You do this. You do this. Do you do political fundraising? He says no. And so a deposit was never made into the account, so it never went live. And how about this? This is another account, right? Yeah. And did he ask for this one? Urgently. Okay. Every time he said it was urgent, he's one of those guys. I need this like yesterday. Okay. Relax, Michael. Now for essential consultants. What about this one? He shows him this one. Well, he called me, but I was on a golf course. You know, I know it's cliche, a banker on a golf course, but I said, I'm on a golf course, brother. I said, go into a branch and figure it out. Government says, that's, I think, about enough for us today, Judge. I'm at a natural stopping point here. Should we break for the day? The judge says, can you approach? They walk up to the bench. They say, what are you doing? How much more do you got? It's this time. The prosecutor's like, it's Friday. I want to go home. My wife's going to be mad. Says, okay, fine. We're done for the day. Jury is excused. Judge tells everybody else, I will see you on Tuesday, and Inner City Press will be back there reporting. And so that is day 8, my friends. And as always, very grateful to Inner City Press for this reporting. You can follow him on Inner City Press at Inner City Press. And of course, all the other links, MatthewRussellLeeICP.substack.com, Patreon.com/MatthewRussellLee, and on PayPal as well. Just go follow him and you'll find all the links. And let's make sure that we have done our retweet on the day. So if you're watching right now, you know where to go get him. So on our timeline, if you're following us, you can follow him immediately. And we'll be, of course, continuing to cover back on day 9. And so we are coming back on Monday. Now, before we wrap up the day, so Trump came out and he said something in the aftermath of the trial. He was there all day watching all these 3 witnesses, and he still came out and he says, I'm ready to debate, baby, after a full day of trial. So someone informed Trump that Biden showed up on Degenerate Stern's show and said to him, shout out to Colin Rugg for clipping this for us, says that Joe is ready to debate at any time, anywhere. Let's go.
I don't know if you're going to debate your opponent.
I am somewhere. I don't know where.
Yeah, right.
I'm happy to debate him. I got put in that
You can hardly talk on this interview, Joe.
10 most eligible bachelors list.
Because you were a United States Senator, you were a catch. Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and a lot of lovely women, but women would send very salacious pictures, and I'd just give them to the Secret Service. I thought somebody would think I was, and I just gave up.
I don't know if
Okay, I hope he does debate. I'd really love to see it. But I have my doubts, okay, because he can hardly even get through those 25 seconds. So we'll see if it happens. Now, Trump's ready to go. So that's him. He's falling asleep on an interview with Howard Stern, who's probably still in his COVID bunker. But here is what Trump said after he was been dragged through the ringer by Joe Biden and put into a courtroom by Matthew Colangelo, who used to work for Joe Biden. Trump says, let's go. Come debate right now. Ready to see you.
I just want to say that I've invited Biden to debate. He can do it anytime he wants, including tonight. I'm ready. Here we are. I invited him to the courthouse that he has us tied up in with his administration. This is all being done through Washington. It's all a well-coordinated attack on a political opponent. But I'm here. I'm ready, willing, and able.
Let's go.
And if he wants, I'll do it on Monday night, Tuesday night, or Wednesday night. We'll be in Michigan, a state that he's destroyed because of the auto industry. We're not going to have any jobs left in Michigan. No auto jobs left in Michigan. They're all going over to China and other places with this ridiculous EV mandate, electric vehicle mandate. But we're willing to do it Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, or Friday night on national television. We're ready. Just tell me where. We'll do it in the White House. That would be very comfortable, actually. But you tell me where. But we're ready. He's obviously not showing up now. We heard nothing. But he said today that, I'd love to debate, but he won't debate. I don't think he'll debate. Maybe he will. Maybe he will. I'm not sure he has a choice. But that's the story. So here we are. We're ready, willing, and able. And we don't see him, and I don't think he'll be here. But maybe next week he'll do it. I doubt it, but maybe next week. So,
yeah, I doubt it. I mean, it is such a precarious position there at the White House now that they have walkers that help him to Marine One because they don't want you to see how decrepit his gait is walking across the grass to his helicopter. So we, of course, are going to be here to continue to cover this. We're going to be back next week on Monday with day 9, and we've got several weeks ahead. So I hope you join us as we continue this coverage, my friends. Thank you so much for subscribing and liking this video and sharing our channel, our live streams, some of our short form content with a friend or family member so they know what we're doing here and what is actually happening behind the scenes in these trials. They try to bury it. They try to bifurcate and segment all of the transcripts, right? They don't want us to see it. So we're here reassembling it so that we can stay apprised. We're grateful that you join us. Thanks for also checking out some of the links down in the description below. Of course, we have our members only community, which is amazing. We do live streams in the morning. We already did a live stream today, and we do streams on Saturdays as well. So we'll love to see you over there. Great way to connect with other people, get plugged into a bigger community, support the work we do here, get some extra content, and have a lot of fun while you're doing it. We'll see you over there, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, and back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. We got new witnesses in, and so we'll pick back up with Gary Farro on direct exam on Monday. We had Rhona Graff, very quick testimony, just confirming a couple details on calendars and so on. And David Pecker is now off the stand. So now let's hear from you before we go on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our after party. We'd love to see you over there. And let's see who's joining us in the house on the day. It's a little bit of a shorter show, no doubt. What's up? We got Mima is bringing in new membos. What's up, Mima? Bringing in 5 new membos. What's up? Kat is here. Terry B. We got Maori's here. Harlan R. We got Nunya Bitness is also joining us, courtesy of Mima in the house. Thank you, Mima, for bringing them in. And we're starting right here today. Start right here. Thank you, Donut. We got this one from Mima. 66 Anton says, I tried to read this X thread earlier and realized good logic is correct. Rob has a gift at reading this stuff. It's better to watch the show. Oh, well, thank you for that, 66 Anton. We have fun. Sometimes I get a little bit carried away and, you know, I don't know. We try to recreate it. I don't know how accurate it is to the actual proceedings. At some point, it'd be fun to talk to Inner City Press and see if he's ever watched it. And he'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. It was the total opposite of what happened in there. But I don't think so. I think it's probably pretty close. Hey, it's the Munkets is here. Bringing in new membos. Donut, mind me. Got a membo. Good to see you, Donut. We got Ann S. Laura's here. Samantha R. And Gitmo Holiday, courtesy of Tony Munkets. Going on a Gitmo holiday. What's up, Maria K? Very nice to see you. Oni is here. Oni Chan. We got Joe V. Oh, gosh. Alan B. Nutter Brudder and Christian McC in the house, courtesy of Maria K. Grateful to see you, Maria. Thank you for bringing in our newest of membos. And hey, Frederick C. says solid coverage. Thank you, Frederick. Grateful that you joined us today, my man. Hopefully we see you back next week. And have yourself a beautiful weekend. Rick Donor in the house. Thank you, Rick. Very nice of you to say that, send that in, and we'll see you next week as well. Mima with some more. Sean E's coming in, courtesy of Mima. Annie V, High Definition, Jesse W, 24/7 Live, AZ Skies in the house, courtesy of Mima. We love you, Mima. Here's one from Venick Artool. Says, it's funny how $130,000 is roughly 1 month of a New York City lawyer's pay. And frankly, that would be on the lower side. What? Lawyers in New York are making $1 million plus? You're kidding me. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I don't know if it's that high. I mean, that's like $1.5 million, right? Ooh, that's a lot. It's good money over there. What's up? Hey, it's the Munkets. Maybe it's because Michael Cohen is rigging everything. Is that why they make so much? Hey, it's the Munkets. Bring in 5 more membos. We got Eric's here, Val G, North Star. We got Janie C and Kim C in the house. Gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hey Munkets. Good to see you, Tony. We got this one from Eric. What's up, Eric? Bringing in 5 membos as well, man. Tons of new membos here today. CP, Lena's here. Beaky, Gulicio, what's up? Shannon S, all coming in courtesy of Eric in the house. Great to see you, Eric. Thanks for being a membo and bringing in the new membos. Fred Pedamonte says, do you keep accidentally coming across pics of McDougal? I don't, Fred. What about you? What's Johnny up to over there? So this is Johnny, Fred's rascally dog, Johnny. You should go check under his mattress, okay? I bet he's got a couple of Playboys under there. Hey, Mima says, please pray for the people of Omaha who were hit by several tornadoes. There's damages and hopefully no casualties. So, okay, yeah, I did see some very, what's looked like very serious storms, but I didn't know that they were in anywhere populated. So that's news. So prayers for our friends in Omaha. I thought I saw stuff in Texas and elsewhere. So yeah, prayers for our friends out there all across America. Be safe. We got, what's up, Mima? Knox is here. Okay, yes, this is great news. So this is great news, my friends. Yesterday, we had a prayer request that was honored, obviously. And it went to a very, very important household, obviously, here, called the Knox Bierman household. And we had prayers that went out. And we have an update. It says, TGIF all. I posted good news earlier. Here's the deal. Mom, Kelly, kept the babies in utero, and everyone is home. Amen. Thank you again for all those prayers. I really felt the power. My whole family thanks you all. It works, my friends. So thank you for doing that. And we're continuing to send good energy to Mama and Baby and Knox and the Knox Bierman household. And we're grateful for the good news and the good update. So thank you, Knox, for sharing that. Whew, good stuff. Thank you for the prayers, my friends. You guys are amazing. It works. We got this from Flagpole Guy. Hang on a second. From Flagpole Guy. We'll leave that one out. This one from Glocky says, say a prayer for the people of Nebraska and Iowa. A lot of lives just got destroyed. Oh my gosh. So it's bad. A lot of people just lost their homes. Mass casualty event declared. Schools hit. Homes completely wiped away. If you live in the Midwest, please pay attention for the next 48 hours. So you guys are awesome. Thank you. I saw what looked like the start of it. So apparently this must have just happened. So prayers for our friends out there in Nebraska and everywhere impacted. Be safe. Gosh, terrible. Okay. Thank you, Glocky, for bringing that to our attention. Samuel D. bringing in new membos. We got Becca G, Benjamin G, Jeff F. S, Candy M, Janice C, all gifted membos courtesy of Samuel D. We got Knox Bierman says, I can find nothing on Judge Juan's parents other than his father was in the Colombian military and Juan was born in Bogota. Nothing on mom, scrubbed by the CIA? Just asking. Yeah, it's very curious, isn't it? How these things work. And then you have a bunch of anti-American rulings. You're like, that's weird. Does this guy even know what the First Amendment is at all? No, probably not. Boopsy says, in my recollection, that Rhona lady was pretty close to Trump in the olden days, sort of a right-hand secretary, handmaid helper for all kinds of stuff around his home. Yeah, that sounds right. Kind of handle everything. And for 30-something years, probably excellent at it. So good to see you, Boopsy. Thanks for that. Here's one. Knox says, working on Juan's dad. So this is from Insight Crime. The FARC 1964 from ragged rebellion to the military machine. The FARC. I'm sure there's something there. Keep digging, Knox. Tony Hay says, when do you think the Supreme Court will make the decision and what cases will just go away if they side with Trump? Well, based on what we heard yesterday, I don't know that any cases will just go away. I think that they'll probably more likely than not go back down to SCOTUS with a framework for Chutkan to apply. And then they'll probably have an evidentiary hearing or some sort of fact-finding proceedings to determine whether Trump's actions were official acts or not. And then if they're determined to be official, then they'll be booted from the indictment. If they are non-official, then they will move forward with the indictment. But I don't know how you can disentangle all of them. In other words, I don't know if there was anything that was purely personal that could move forward separate from the other official acts. And this may become moot. Okay, the way that I could envision it happening is it goes back down to Chutkan. She applies the test, but she applies it improperly. Trump appeals that anyways. Goes back up to SCOTUS. Unless SCOTUS, comes up with a test and then applies the test and just mandates this back down to Chutkan. But I'm not sure that they're going to do that based on what we heard yesterday. So, and a similar process, I think, would happen in other proceedings. I think the fact finder would be the court that determines whether it's official or not. If it is official, it's immune. If not, then not. And Chutkan will say none of it's official. And then Trump will probably appeal that again. So it's going to be a long road for them, which means the case is not going before the election. SB Stevenson in the house, a new membo over on the tubes. Great to see you, SB. Emax Tactical says former President Trump debating the dear leader would be, don't say it, it would be a bloodbath. Oh, we're all on a list again. Oh, great. We're all on the FBI list again. Bloodbath. Remember that? Trump said it's going to be a bloodbath. He's going to chop heads off. Like, relax. All right. Good to see you, Emac. Thank you for that one. Very nice. Sheila P. Membo for 2 months says, love this channel and this chat. I'm with you, Sheila P. I love the chat too. And you, Sheila. Love you back. Cowboy Rob says, listen to SCOTUS, the SCOTUS show, and it amazed me how the justices spoke about Trump as if he's guilty. There was no benefit of the doubt for Trump at all. Yeah, I think a lot of what we heard was gaming. They're gaming these things out. But you're right. Trump does not get the benefit of the presumption of innocence in this country. Are you kidding me? Not at all. Good to see you, Cowboy. Thanks for that. Hey, and JPB in AZ says, hey, just wanted to say thanks. I love how you fill in the gaps in these trial transcripts, and your nicknames make it more interesting and humorous. By the way, you should watch 12 Angry Men. Mentioned a few shows ago. It should be a must watch for all trial attorneys. I got to add it to the list then. There's a couple of those like must watch for attorneys that I'm like, I haven't watched. And at this point, I'm not sure that I will, just on principle. But this suggestion has come up many times. And so thank you for that. JPB in AZ, and a very cute puppy in that photograph, man. So we got, by the way, nicknames, McDougal. McDougal. That's going to be a good one. Here, 12 Angry Men. This is apparently interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Thank you for the suggestion. B-Man says, do they have any way of finding out if Matthew Colangelo is on paid leave from the DOJ? Probably. I think there's probably some record requests that could be made to show whether he's an employee, like open records, public funding laws. But specifically, I don't know that he needs to be. He just leaves. And the collusion is evident, I think, on its face. Lady Ice says, I want to grow my own food, but I can't find the bacon seeds. That would solve a lot of problems if we could just grow, steak out of the ground. Jennifer says, I believe if Trump asks Joe Rogan to moderate a debate, it'd be over for Biden. Just the ask alone, I see. Not even Joe Rogan hosting it. But that would be fun, man. I'm waiting for Trump Rogan. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but a lot of people are waiting for that one. It seems like an obvious thing. Hey, what's up? Sandy says, yeah, had to chuckle when you said the judge told him to see you Tuesday. I know. See you next Tuesday. It's like, oh gosh, I caught that too. Didn't Trump have some scandal about saying see you next Tuesday to E. Jean's attorney? Yes, they did. That's right. They did. And Roberta Kaplan was very upset about that. I didn't even know he was saying that to me. I remember that was on, I think she was talking about that on Conway's podcast, if I recall that. Ray Ronkus here says, one funnel landed 2 miles from my house. Wow. So your house is okay. Neighbors were hit though. Well, sorry to hear that, Ray. Hopefully your community is rallying support and everybody is as safe as they can be over there. We'll be sending some prayers your way as well. This old guy says, so far, I haven't heard any real evidence of a crime in the no-neck Bragg case. Alvin Bragg. All hat, no cattle here, says this old guy. Hey, Being Still says, Rob, what is your combined membership numbers? That's a good question. I don't even know. I don't know the specific numbers, but I love each and every one of you. Salty Sarge says, the way I see it, a porn star, a lawyer, and a Playboy bunny walked into a bar. then colluded on how to get a billionaire's money. But prayers for Nebraska. Good to see you, Salty. It's good to see you, Salty. That could be a good joke, man. I'll have to mull that one over. What's up? Eddie Van Z says, Rob, not related to your show, except the fact that we had tornadoes here too. All okay though, but your favorite Texan was elected mayor. Eddie, what? You got elected mayor? What? Eddie, is this Eddie? Did you change your name? You did change. I mean, Van Zandt is a new Eddie, but is this the old Eddie who always reminds me about how great Texas is? Well, I know it's great. Texas is great. Not related to your show. Well, I saw some major, weather formations moving into Texas, and everybody's going, brace yourselves for impact. So be safe, Eddie, and congratulations on being mayor. iChurch Cafe says, as a pastor, I promise whoever asks for prayers here will have no less than 450 people on our worldwide team praying. Whoa! Blessings from Texas. Those are some serious blessings from Texas, man. iChurch Cafe. Sounds like you got a good cause going over there. Blessings from Texas. So iChurch Cafe sounds like a great thing you're working on there. Great congregation. Amazing. Good to see you, iChurch Cafe. It works, man. We got some good prayers. Here's one. So Baby Carson May was the recipient of a lot of prayers some time ago. She's doing great. She's gaining weight like crazy. Very good to see that, Lady Ice. And shout out to Baby Carson May. Doing great, growing like crazy. We got Jennifer says, have a beautiful weekend, Rob and the Watchers family. And you too, Jennifer. Have an amazing weekend. It's going to be a good one. I can feel it. Can't you feel it in your bones? Can you feel it in your bones? It's going to be great. All right. Thank you so much, my friends. Very, very nice donos and support on this Friday. We're grateful for those comments. It is the old Eddie. I have to assume an online alias because sometimes I say crazy things online. It's smart. Yeah, very smart. Very smart plan. All right, let's see who's joining us on X before we wrap it up and head on over to Locals for our debrief. Oh, hey, this is a fun one. Charlie Kirk posted this. Says, Trump responds to news that Biden has finally said he's willing to debate. Crooked Joe Biden just announced that he's willing to debate. Everyone knows he doesn't really mean it. But in case he does, I say anywhere, anytime, any place. An old expression used by fighters. I suggest Monday evening, Tuesday evening, Wednesday evening at my rally in Michigan, a state that he's in the process of destroying with his EV mandate. And the alternative, he's in New York City today, although probably doesn't know it. And so am I, stuck in one of the many court cases that he instigated as election interference against a political opponent, a continuing witch hunt. It's the only way he thinks he can win. In fact, let's do the debate at the courthouse tonight on national television. I'll wait around, says Trump. We'd love to see a debate, but I'm not sure we're going to get it because Joe Biden is demented. So it's going to be a problem for them. Hey, we got some memes over here. What's going on? Hey, Fred says, 12 Angry Men is one of the best movies ever made. It's from a play that is still being produced from Fred Pedemonte and Johnny. And Danny says the judge seems to be lighting up on Trump's team. It could be true. And we got memes from Glocky. It looks like Adam Schiff just got knocked out over there. All right, well, mostly peaceful memes over there. And so, my friends, that is going to be it for us on the day. Eddie sent this one in. It is the old Eddie. I've assumed an online alias because sometimes I say crazy things online. Better safe than sorry, Eddie. Great to have you here and very nice to see you. My friends, that is it for us on the day. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We'd love to see you. We're doing a members-only stream tomorrow morning on Saturdays as well, in addition to this after party now. We also have our website, robertgovea.com. PDFs are there, merch stores there, calendars there, show reports are there, daily newsletter. If you're looking for another newsletter to come into your inbox, make it ours. We also have watcherlodge.com. Check out the links to our Watcher meetup. There is another business event that I'm going to. It's a business marketing, networking, online people type of an event. It's Thursday and Friday. If you want to go to that, their early bird special, I'm not affiliated with their business. I'm just attending the event and they're making it publicly available. So if you want to go attend a business thing and, network with other business people. You can learn more about that. It's called the Speakeasy Mastermind. The link to the tickets is at watcherlodge.com if you want to check that out. The reason I mention it is because there's an early bird ticket special that expires, I think, at the end of this month. So if you wanted to go on a business event and then join the Watcher Meetup, make a 3-day, 4-day thing out of it, that's available. If you want to just come and join us on June 29th, that's available. We're going to be at Trump International Hotel in Vegas, baby. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've never stayed there. And what better time to stay at Trump Tower than in election season? So I'm going to have some fun with that. And we'll be doing some streams and checking the city out and all the stuff. But come join us if you want to check it out. Also, we have Sovereignty Saturdays. So tomorrow at the Lodge, we'll be hanging out, talking about sovereignty, self-development, personal development, and what to do in the face of all this madness that we are witnessing together. Also, thanks for supporting our sponsors, of course. They're linked down in the description below. Always good to be prepared, get some extra supplies, and get ready. twc.health/Robert to support them. My friends, that is it for us. Want to thank the mods and the meme smiths before we call it a day. Of course, shout out to our friends, the mods. K-Bean in the house, Just Cause. We got Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, our friend Zach Nichols, Janek, Dog Digger, Economy Pilot, Donut Mind Me, all modding the fort down for us, along with our meme smiths, Glocky McGlock, Jigum Gigum, Nathan N810, and Sleepy Dog Lee, all modding the fort down for us. But my friends, that is it for us on the day and on the week. We're heading over to Locals. We'll be back on Locals and on the Lodge tomorrow. And if I don't see you over there, we'll be back on Monday. And it's going to be a busy one because we're going to be back in trial. And so until we get there, I do hope you have an incredible weekend, that you're able to unplug from the busyness of the week. We had this one come in from Melanie. Says Biden said he would get salacious pics when he was in the Senate and would give them to the Secret Service, except he didn't have any Secret Service while he was in the Senate. So he's a liar. That's a great comment from Melanie in the house, showing that Joe, a little bit dishonest or a little bit demented. Either way, it's not good. Great point, Melanie. Thanks for bringing that up. And I think you're right about it. Okay, and so my friends, as we wrap it up, and Melanie, thanks for wrapping us up with a great comment and the reminder. I am hopeful that you have an incredible weekend, whatever it is you decide to do. Hopefully it is recharging your soul, your spirit, your energy levels. You're feeling like you've got some refreshed energy tanks, because when we come back on Monday, we're going to get into it again. And we need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.